welcome in to yet another edition of Sad Times. My name's Kevin. I'm your host. Well, we better start with the people who pay the bills, and that's Fuck Cigarettes. That's our sponsor. We hope that as you listen to Sad Times, you're able to lean back, light a fuck, and just really exhale and feel better about everything. For those of you who have never listened to Sad Times before, Fuck Cigarettes are not real, but they are our sponsor. And let me tell you a little bit about what Sad Times is. Sad Times is our podcast in which we have a guest on every episode, and that guest talks about when he or she has gone through, for lack of a better term, sad times, has dealt with emotions, pain, anger, depression, anxiety, all of those things, the things that we all, on one way or another, we're all dealing with these emotions. And the goal of the show is not to fix the problems, that the people come to share their stories. It's to hear the stories so that somebody else who may be hearing this may be able to say, oh, I thought I was the only one who did X, Y, or Z, or I thought I was the only one who worried about that, or I thought I was the only one who had that experience. Oh my God, somebody else had that experience? Okay, I'm not alone. And maybe, I think that does a ton of good. So that's kind of what the show is. And, today's guest is a gentleman by the name of Joe. Joe, how the hell are you, man?
I'm great. How are you?
Well, that's not the way that we start Sad Times. You're sad. No, I'm just kidding. I'm doing well, man. I'm doing
shit,
well.
Shit.
Yeah,
Sorry,
fuck.
sorry.
Yeah, you fucked it up already. God damn it. Good, man.
Screw up.
And we're now. I'm in the Chicago area. Tell me where you are.
I am in North Las Vegas.
Ah, it's beautiful.
Yeah,
Mm.
It is North Las Vegas.
Is that the best way to describe it? It's North Las Vegas?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, pretty much.
Okay,
it's fine.
How long have you lived in the Vegas area?
Vegas area. We moved here in 2003.
Wow, we being who's we?
That is me and my then girlfriend, now wife, Kim.
Okay, right on.
We were in Omaha, Nebraska, and we were like, "What's better than Omaha, Nebraska?" And so we picked literally any city. And we went there.
You're saying that literally any city is better than Omaha, Nebraska?
Just about to live in. It's a great place for my in-laws still live there, and it's perfect for that. Like I go back, I see the friends, I see the people, and then we leave. And we don't.
Go ahead. Sorry.
It's like seeing the snow while it's still white and before it turns like gray and slushy. You're like, oh, this is pretty. This is great. And now I'm gone.
That's a great way to say it, I think, because I fucking hate snow. That's why I moved to Chicago, to get away from the snow. And just kidding. I fucking hate all that mud and shit. One of the last times I saw you years ago, Joe, was here in Chicago. You and your wife were visiting, as I recall.
Yes.
Long time ago. But I've known Joe, just let the listeners in. I've known Joe for over 18 years now. Joe and I met when Joe was my boss. Joe was, we were both on a Christmas Carol tour. For those of you who don't know the story of a Christmas Carol, that's no one. So we were on a Christmas Carol tour, and we were on the technical side. Joe was Joe, tell us what you did on that tour.
I was the technical director. I made sure that the set got loaded in, and we didn't set anything on fire with sparklers. There was a little dance with the sparklers.
Yes.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Yes.
Yeah.
And then the one show that we did where the fire marshal's like, no. You don't need water. That water's not going to put out that sparkler. I'll tell you what will. Sand. And so we did what the fire marshal said, and then we kept putting the sparklers in the sand, and it kept not going out. Am I remembering that correctly?
You're remembering it almost completely correctly. There was we stuck them in the sand, and they didn't go out. And then we stuck them in the sand harder, and the wire bent and shot little pieces of sparkler everywhere. And then I stood up and I looked over at the stage manager and the production manager and the fire marshal, and I was like, "We're cutting the sparklers today."
And that
today's performance will not feature the sparkler dance.
Yes, well, and that's the type of power you had as a technical director. Now, I was just what was called a general technician or a bed bug. And I'll go into what that means in a second. But I got there. So this would have been the fall. I got to Omaha. I believe I took a train to Omaha on Halloween. And I believe we started rehearsals the next day. And I was nervous. I'd done some professional theater before. This wasn't my first professional job, but it was one of my first professional jobs when I was totally outside of the collegiate realm. And so I was there. I don't know if you remember the show. I was there, and I'm just trying to make friends with people. I'm anxious and all this stuff. And I see Joe. Well, turns out to be Joe. I see Joe walking by, and I'm like, oh, hey, man. Hey, what are you doing here? And Joe just kept walking and said nothing to me. And I grew very terrified of Joe. And I was like, what did I say that was wrong? I probably shouldn't have asked him what he's doing here. But Joe, you didn't hear me, right?
I think we've established that I don't remember that at all. And I'm pretty sure I didn't hear you. I probably had headphones in.
Yeah.
Like knowing me, I probably was like pissed off that I was in the cold, because that was literally, I moved to Vegas in September of that year.
Yeah.
So it was like I was almost out of the winter, and then I made this dumbass decision that brought me right back into it. And man, it was we experienced all of the winter that tour.
Oh, we did. We found our way. We spent some time in Green Bay. We spent some time in the Upper Peninsula of fucking Michigan.
Yeah.
We spent some time almost having the truck go off the side of the road, but that's not why everybody's logging in. Logging in? Jesus fucking Christ. Tuning in? Do people tune into podcasts? I don't know. Yeah, sure. Tuning in. I like to say podcasts are like FDR's fireside chats, but with way more mattress ads. That's kind of my thinking on it.
Yeah. I think I will also drop more F-bombs than FDR.
Well, than he did in his fireside chats.
Yeah.
You don't know what that motherfucker was saying in the Oval Office. Because none of that recording.
He's not
shit.
Lyndon Johnson.
No, hey, nice. Yeah. Quick plug for Robert Caro and his Lyndon Johnson books and his book, The Power Broker. Those are real, unlike fuck cigarettes. Okay. So, Joe, you are from Omaha. Is that correct?
Yeah, I kind of grew up all over the Midwest. I was born in Des Moines, lived in Kansas City for a while, and then Minot, North Dakota for like a year.
Whoa.
And then, that was winter.
Yeah.
And then we settled into Omaha for like from 6th grade on through the end of college.
Why'd you move around so much?
My dad was in journalism. So
really?
Yeah. He was a journalist. So he worked for the Des Moines Register, Kansas City Star, and then the Minot. I forgot the name of the paper in Minot, North Dakota.
The Minot Times.
Yeah.
The Minot.
We're just going to call that some healed trauma.
Yeah, what'd you say?
We're going to call that some healed trauma.
There you go. Beautiful.
Yeah,
that's really beautiful. That's wonderful. So your dad was a journalist. So, that's one, a hero. Journalism, where would democracy be without journalism?
Great question.
Well, I think we almost found that out, but anyway. Okay, so when you were a kid, did you have any depression? Did you have anxiety? Like what was your mental health like as a kid?
I think okay. Like young kid. I think I was kind of like the standard middle child. I've got an older brother, younger brother, and I was always happy to kind of be in the background, and like that's been true my entire life.
Kind of just kind of blending in type of thing.
Yeah, kind of just sort of off on my own kind of a little bit, not the center of attention. The weirdest day of my life was our wedding, where it was like everybody is like constantly paying attention to me, and it's like, this is weird and I don't like it.
Yeah.
So I don't, I much rather kind of, have that background player thing and then stick my head out and make a smart ass comment and then back into the background.
That is one of your specialties. You have one of the best smart ass mouths I've ever met.
I was trained by a very, very good journalist in how to be a smartass.
There you go. So when you were in growing up, did you ever go to the doctor for mental health stuff or anything like that?
I not until I was like kind of junior high age.
Okay.
So at that point, it kind of, like I think sixth grade, I had evaluations for ADD, and I think they kind of were like, there might be some depression in here with that. I don't. I think junior high ish was when I started actually taking antidepressants, and I had a real brief go around with Ritalin where I just was not. I didn't like the Ritalin.
Why didn't you like it?
I think I remember telling my mom it made me feel like fuzzy, like almost uh, like snow on a TV, like the old school, like no signal,
Oh.
like. Uh, and I don't know. I've always been interested to think about like is that something that you know as I grew up and my tolerance for like altered states of mind kind of expanded.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that's the same, like if I would feel the same now, if it would be like, because that's probably the first time I ever had anything that kind of like really
It,
altered where my brain was.
do you remember what you said you were on an antidepressant too?
Yeah, it was a generic called imipramine. I don't remember what the the name brand was.
Imipramine, huh?
Imipramine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I'm an old well, I'm an old soul, but that's just because I'm old. But I'm an old pro, is what I was trying to say at antidepressants and these drugs. And I've never heard of that. So you were put on that in junior high. Now, did you have like really bad depression, or kind of what like, or was what? How would you describe it?
So it's this kind of later on. I've been diagnosed more with dysthymia than actual like major depression. I mean, I think I still have a major depression diagnosis, but I think it's not the like crushing. I can't get out of bed. I can't care for myself. Depression
Mm-hmm.
is a little more like low intensity, like just kind of like the like this shit again.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, you said the word dysthymia. Is that correct?
Dysthymia, I believe.
Dysthymia.
Yes.
That's almost like Meatloaf songs by Jim Steinman. Dysthymia. Okay, and that's so I had heard of that before, and that's like another way to say it for people who've never heard that word or listened to Meatloaf, is it's a persistent depressive disorder. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
It's a persistent depressive disorder, but what you're saying, it wasn't persistent to the point where you could still function, you could still go about your daily whatever junior high business, whatever people did in Omaha in the 40s or however old you are, that type of thing, right?
Yeah. We could still go out and drink in the cornfields and throw rocks at cars. Yeah, that's about all there is to do in Omaha.
Midwest,
it was.
baby.
Yeah, it was always. So yeah, it was always like I was never, the can't get off the couch, can't function, level of it was a little more manageable on its own. So it was kind of like a little more, do I really need antidepressants, or, do I just need exercise? Like there's that kind of depression is kind of the stuff where it's like, what is the best course of action a little more?
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of up to me if I wanted to be on them or not.
Did you do therapy along with the drugs, or just do the drugs?
I did a little bit of therapy. A lot of it was in terms of like kind of more towards social anxiety, which is kind of something that I've sort of always kind of, I've never been like diagnosed with a social anxiety disorder, but
Mm-hmm.
I do kind of like, I think I'm just extremely introverted, and always, like the group is not where I want to be. The big groups of people, I'm like, nope, hard pass for me.
Yeah. Okay. So you did a little therapy with that, and did you feel any sort of side effects or discomfort from the imipramine when you took it?
it was great when I took it. If I skipped a dose, I would get like physically ill. Like yeah, I mean
Really?
it was yeah,
Like
and
vomit?
that was yep. Yeah,
Oh,
so it was like a get out of school free card, but it was like it was not pleasant. It was it was not just the price is right.
were you warned about that? Like, was that like on the side of the bottle? Did the doctor say, "Hey, you please take this every day, or you're going to have X, Y, Z complications"?
No, that was something I found out. And I don't know. They kind of, I think it was kind of like not a standard, thing where it was, I think the doctor was kind of like, oh, that's a little weird. That doesn't usually happen. Uh, but it was, I didn't like the idea of being dependent on something,
Okay.
you
Did you
know?
feel shame about being on it?
Uh, I don't remember feeling shame at that age.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, certainly, uh, later on, no.
No.
Uh,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I feel zero shame about it right now.
And you're back on. So wait, let me not get ahead of us. Sorry.
Okay.
So you were on, my fault. When did you go off the imipramine?
I think it was on that for probably a year and a half.
Okay.
I
Did you have to
believe.
taper it off, or did you just get really sick?
I think we tapered down.
Okay. Did you have any long-standing effects? I asked once you tapered off of it. I asked that because I've tried, and I know many people who have struggled with a lot of antidepressants and these drugs, and going off them can be almost as harmful as not being on them at all. So, did you have any long-standing effects? Did you find that you missed it or anything like that?
Not really. I don't think so. I don't recall having it. I think I was at the point. So I wasn't on ADD treatment
Mm-hmm.
anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So that like that combined with a pill you have to take every day, or else you get sick, becomes kind of an albatross where it's like, I've got this pill I have to take and this disorder that makes me bad at taking pills every day. So it was kind of like, all right, now I'm not doing that anymore. That feels good. So I remember being like, okay, I don't have to worry about that anymore.
Okay, so there's like a relief in it, but there was not
Yeah,
like
bit.
you didn't like find that your persistent depressive disorder got worse or anything like that.
No,
Oh, that's
not
good.
really.
That's really good. Okay, so you went off that about a year, so you're probably 15, 16 when you went off it?
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Okay, and you were on the Ritalin for a much shorter time, right?
Yeah, I think it was on the Ritalin for a matter of days. I think it really was real quick for the Ritalin.
Did you try anything else besides Ritalin for the ADD, or you're just like, fuck that?
I don't remember trying because I think it was again like I was never hyperactive,
Okay.
so they weren't real like hard pushing it for the ADD because the kids that had ADD diagnoses in those days were the kids that were causing like damage and getting into fistfights.
Which, by the way, doesn't mean they were bad kids at all.
No,
Right.
no, and I did cause some damage, but yeah, for sure. Like
You caused some damage. Like what?
I was always as a kid I was always taking things apart and breaking stuff. And one time I hit a glass window with a baseball bat while my younger brother was on the other side of that window.
Now, hold on? I have to ask this for everyone out there. Did you know the window was there?
I did.
Okay.
And my mom came out and she was like, a piece of glass went into my brother's lip.
Oh.
And cut his lip. Not that bad. It was fine.
Yeah.
But she was dealing with my crying, bleeding younger brother. And I told her that before the window broke, I could see it like curve.
A curve? What does that mean?
Like it bent. Like before it shattered. It
bent. So you're trying to wait? Are you blaming the window here?
No.
Okay.
I was just fascinated by it, and I thought my mother should know.
And what was her response? I don't give a fuck. I don't know if your mother speaks that way.
I think it was. I think there was a lot of "What are you thinking?" What were you thinking?
How old were you at this time?
This was in Kansas City, so it would have been less than 10, probably 8, 9.
Okay, so your younger brother was real young.
Yeah, he was Yeah, he would have been 2 years younger than me.
Okay.
Uh,
Wow. So, and we've kind of said it, and we'll get to it, but you went off, and you were off drugs through all of college, right?
yeah, there was a brief time in high school where I ended up on Prozac.
Oh,
Uh,
hey, I
yeah,
love me some Prozac. Tell me about your
yeah.
experience with Prozac.
Uh, I think it was on a real low dose. I don't remember it doing a whole lot. Uh, but I mean, I think that's usually like kind of a good thing, right? Like when
That's
you're,
what I'm always looking for.
yeah, like it's almost like you're like, I just kind of feel a little better, you know? Yeah, so I didn't have any side effects on it. And I think I was just kind of on it for like some of my senior year.
And it was for the same thing for depression?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I've been on Prozac for 8.5 years, maybe.
Okay.
And to quote you and I, one of our favorite people, Bill Hicks, I'm on a heroic dose of. I just am on a lot of Prozac.
There you go.
But what I like about Prozac, one, it helps, and two, it doesn't change who I am really.
Yeah.
And it really. I didn't know this beforehand, but it is something that is effective in helping treat OCD, which is what I have.
Okay.
So you were on that briefly, and then you just kind of were like, yeah, I don't think I need this.
Yeah, kind of in and out again, a little bit. And like I do remember like for as far as the stigma of it, I thought it was like cool. I was like, hey,
Oh,
I'm on
really?
Prozac. Yeah, like I had no like I thought it was kind of like funny and like had no like qualms with being on it.
Did you
You
tell
know,
people?
I told like all my friends. I don't think I was like telling people I didn't know.
Right. You didn't have a sign
But
on your locker that said
yeah,
Prozac taker.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
No.
yeah, I mean like I think all my friends, yeah, like I think that was kind of the point at which I had developed like if you're going to judge me for this, like you can judge me for it and go do your thing. I don't need you around, you
Yeah.
know, kind of mentality. And that's where I've held that for a long time. Like if you're going to judge someone for things like this, like good luck to you. I don't need you around.
Yeah. That's fair. It's a very, well, that's a different show, I guess. But I would just say that there's just, it's fascinating why people would even do that, but different show.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have gotten back on meds. What got
Yes.
you? When did you get back on them?
So the return to meds was when so my father had his second and third bouts with major cancer, and was in treatment for lymphoma, and that's when I started back on the actually this time it was Celexa.
Okay.
So he had an earlier colon cancer when I was in college, but that was a pretty simple surgery that wasn't the deep kind of treatment that the other two were. And then when he started on that, I really started to get that deep sense of overwhelm, and that that is always kind of indicative of like it's time to start kind of seeing somebody for me.
Okay.
Like I get this like sense of overwhelm that like just little things become too much for me to handle.
And how long do you kind of deal with that? I like the way you describe it, sense of overwhelm. How long do you deal with that before you start to take action?
So I think I probably dealt with this for 3-4 weeks before I took action, and now yeah. So I think in that time, not real long, but it was uh long enough that it was like, all right, I need to. This isn't something that's just a bad day or a bad couple days.
Right.
This is something more invasive going on.
Okay. So, you said that your dad had colon cancer when you were in college, but they were able to treat it pretty easy. I don't know if easily is the right way, but they were able to take care of that at the time. But then you said he had a second and third more major, I believe you said major bout with cancer. How old were you? And it was during those that you started taking meds again. How old were you when that happened?
That was 2016, so I'd have been 36.
Okay.
And probably 35 at the time. So no, it was 2014. Yeah, he was diagnosed in 2014 for the lymphoma.
Okay.
And so the lymphoma was like they found it. We had just been on a Alaskan cruise. We had just been to the World Series, and kind of between the World Series and Thanksgiving, they found this. He had a backache and thought it was kidney stones. Like he had like a really terrible and went in and said, I think I have kidney stones. They did a scan and they said, "Oh, you've got a lot of cancer."
And when they did the, sorry to interrupt you, when they did the colon cancer treatment, they kind of thought, okay, it was local, it was in the colon, and they got it out, and they felt like, okay, he's cancer free, right?
Yeah, it was inside a polyp. So he had a polyp that was cancerous, but the cancer was contained completely within the polyp.
Okay.
So they removed a section of colon, and it was a surgery. It was a big surgery, but it wasn't, I think it was down for a couple of weeks, and that is, and so that wasn't, there was a lot of dealing with his mortality and kind of stuff like that, but it wasn't the scare that the second round was.
Okay, and you said thinking he had kidney stones, and the scan showed he had tumors and cancer. Where was it? I mean, was it in the kidneys or?
It was lymphoma. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of, it's a blood cancer that it was kind of everywhere. There was a lot of it around the pancreas, which was, that's scary. That's that's the bad one.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like, I remember Thanksgiving, we knew, that this was happening. We knew, I don't think we knew for sure that it was cancer, but they were like, there's nothing else this could be. Like, we haven't done the test to confirm it yet, but it's going to be cancer.
And okay, so Thanksgiving 2014. Sorry, go ahead.
And then I think at that point we were worried about pancreatic cancer was the real concern.
Okay, I want to go back. You said you went to the World Series.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. I mean, I think most people would love to go to the World Series, but why did you guys go?
So we moved. I said we were in Kansas City. We moved to Kansas City in 1985, and Kansas City 1985 is that was a good baseball team.
Yeah.
My dad immediately got a share of. He's a huge baseball fan all his life, but a Yankee fan.
Mm-hmm.
But he immediately got a share of season tickets. I think either someone who left had to sell their share, or there were a group of people who wanted to sell a share or something. So we got like a quarter of a season ticket package. And then the Royals ended up winning the World Series in 1985.
Yeah, beat those motherfucking Cardinals. It was great.
And objectively, the Don Dicklinger call is not that big a deal.
Yeah. Well, for anybody who's listening, it's in game one. He called somebody out Safe, who was very clearly out. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it was game 6. No, game 5. I think they
it was later in the series.
6.
Okay.
Yeah, and the Cardinals were up a run, but he ends up, he doesn't score. It's not like it's not like that caused a run. It's not the Cardinals fell apart afterwards, which I think we can all agree is hilarious.
We can, at least me and you can. I think it's fucking hilarious.
It's excellent. And then they lost the next game anyway. So it's,
Yeah, and
Sour
just to
grapes.
clarify, I've never been a Royals fan. I've always and forever will be a Cubs fan, which is why I have a podcast called Sad Times.
Fair enough.
Okay, so wow, you guys moved there in '85. So that's like the George Brett. Was Brett Saberhagen around then? Hal McRae.
Brett Saberhagen was he was I think the rookie of the year that year. It was just before Bo Jackson, but Frank White, Willie Wilson, all the kind of Royals greats that were the last real effective baseball team.
Oh, you're telling me that after 1985, Kansas City wasn't great every year since?
Kansas City saw a lot of hard seasons, but as part of his share of the tickets, he got tickets to Game 2 of the World Series, and
okay.
So he had a choice to make between taking my mother or one of the three kids.
I'm sorry, is this the 1985 World Series?
This is the 85 World Series.
Okay, thank you.
So he looked at my younger brother, who would have been probably 3 at the time, and he's like, "You're not making memories yet, so you can you can stay home." And he looked at me, and he was like, "Yeah, your older brother's more into it."
Mm-hmm.
So it really came down to my older brother Mike and my mom getting these tickets, and he chose my mother. And he told Mike, next time the Royals in the World Series, we'll go. And then 30 years later.
Yeah, 2014 was the next time they were in the World Series, right?
Yeah, 29 years later, yes. We got tickets to Game 2 of the World Series against the Giants. And
when you say we, who is that? Like you and your brothers and your dad and your mom, or who went?
Yeah, just everybody but my mom. My dad got tickets for all of us but he definitely had to pay off the promise to my older brother, and then he was like, "You guys are old enough now." My younger brother was 31, so he's like, "Yeah."
He'd made a few memories by then.
You can go now. Yeah.
Okay, so that's amazing. Okay, so this isn't the case maybe with every family, but I can relate to that very much because my grandmother and I mean, we shared baseball and the Cubs, and it's just such a wonderful story to hear that your dad said, when they make it again, Mike being your older brother, I'll take you, right? And then he did exactly that, and then was able to take you and your younger brother. And how do you feel about having had that just before all this other shit started happening?
It's really appropriate. Like it is, there's certainly, those amazing memories, like, cause we hold those memories from, the season tickets. Like that was the time we spent alone with our father.
Yeah.
We did lots of family trips and things like that, but, for a family with 3 boys who have asthma and all that stuff, the times that we spent alone with our dad were baseball games or going to the hospital. So the baseball games were really like the highlight of this is time where he teaches us about the infield fly rule and to watch the outfielders when there's a pop up to left, because they all look like home runs. And if you were a fan of the Royals from 1987 to 1990, they were not all home runs.
Maybe they never were. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, Bo hit a couple.
Oh, that's right. Of course, Bo. Well, Bo knows home runs.
Yeah. He also struck out.
Yes. Well, can't win them all. He's doing it. So I just love what you just said about the infield fly rule and that you got to watch the left fielder. And I don't have any children because I would be a terrible father. But I've always, when I was a kid, I was like, oh, if I have a son, I'm going to take him to a baseball game. And so to hear you relay that and it really warms my heart. So that's really great. So the scan happened around, you said Thanksgiving of 2014. So what were the next steps? Like, did he go right into treatment?
Yes. So it turned out he had mantle cell lymphoma, which was kind of an aggressive form of lymphoma. And he was he had a lot of it. It was, there his oncologist kind of said, there wasn't a lot of time, that this treatment was effective, but it was a hell of a treatment. It kills about 20% of the people who take the treatment at the time, I think.
Wow.
And so he had this monster treatment. It was, inpatient, and, like they were so aggressive with it that they had to monitor him for kidney failure because the kidneys were filtering out so many dead cells and so much toxins and all kinds of stuff. So it was monster treatment. And he got out from the first treatment. He got out on Christmas Day.
Okay.
So I was down there in Baton Rouge for him coming home the first time from this treatment, and like he was still working as much as possible. Like he was a professor at LSU at this time in the journalism department, and he would try and get people to cover his classes, but still like show up to some of them and like kind of sit in the back and feel not great, but still like just kind of incredibly stubborn, incredibly like never took the time that he needed to,
rest.
Yeah. Like he just kept going.
And this is, so he was like back to work as soon as possible after he had this super aggressive treatment.
Yeah. And it was, like he had like several different rounds of it. They would kind of bombard him and let him recover, then bombard him and let him recover. And, so he really like, and he just didn't stop. He would keep going and keep going and keep going.
Did anybody try to say, hey man, maybe let's rest? And
everybody
did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He just didn't stop. There was a point at which he was on the chemo, and the chemo prevented blood clotting, and he got a brain bleed. And so like gradually his left hand started losing strength.
Jesus.
And
wait, sorry, when was this? When did the brain bleed occur?
This was, I think, August of 2016. I think this was towards the end of the actual treatment for the lymphoma.
2016, 2015?
I think 2015. I think it's probably 2015.
Okay, 2015. All right. Okay,
Yeah,
so he notices first in his hand that his hand is not working correctly?
Yeah, like he was so a bunch of his work in journalism was in the digital journalism. And so it was like kind of he had a lot of like Twitter interaction and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And he was like, my hands aren't like, I'm not tweeting as well as I could be with this left hand. Mm-hmm. And like, that was the first thing he noticed, is that when he was tweeting, his left hand was kind of like having more typos than normal. And then it gradually lost more and more strength. And then my mother was out of town, and he woke up and it was like he couldn't button his pants. And the solution that he came up with was like, I'm seeing the doctor today anyway. I'll bring it up with him, but I'm going to go to Walmart and get pants that I don't have to button. Then I'll go into work.
Wow.
And then he went into the doctor and they said, oh, okay, you need to go to the hospital now. And
did he have pain in his head?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't. And I've always wondered, like, if he thought like, the cancer spread to my brain and this might be my last chance to go into work, or if he's just like that's just what he did was like a Terminator robot of journalism, just going straight forward and
have walking. You seen this boy? If not, I'm going to write a story about it. Okay, so, and you said your mom was out of town, so he's there alone.
Yeah. So, and like she gets a phone call that's like, hey, they're taking me to the hospital and I'm going to have brain surgery tomorrow. And so I don't think that was the call. I think it was like I'm going to the hospital, and then they figured out that it was a brain bleed,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think it was two separate phone calls because I was at work and I worked late that day, and it was probably like 10 o'clock in Vegas, and I was getting phone call updates and like booking flights out that night.
And Louisiana, you 3 hours ahead, right? From Vegas, or are they Central or Eastern time?
I think it's Central, but I'm not sure.
Well, that is God's time zone.
It is.
That's what I say. So you're at least 2 hours behind. So it's it's 10 p.m. where you are, and you work. What do you do, or what did you do at the time?
At the time I was the head of lighting at Mandalay Bay Arena. So I was just probably working a show that I didn't have a whole lot to do with. I think it was a show that kind of brought their own production team in and had because I was able to just about walk out the door, I think.
Okay.
And like my coworkers kind of were like, "Yeah, do what you got to do." And I think I jumped on a flight that night to Baton Rouge.
Yeah, for anybody who's not what's the word I'm looking for? Familiar with Las Vegas, the airport is like right fucking by the strip too.
Yeah.
It's like right there. I wonder why.
Yeah. It's one thing they've planned correctly.
On the next episode of Sad Times, Joe tells us his real thoughts on Las Vegas. So you hop
we
off
discuss city planning.
City planning, which once again, Robert Caro's book, The Power Broker, about Robert Moses, will change your life. Okay, so you hop on a flight late that night. Your mom is, as you said, out of town, so you're going to be there with your dad, right?
Yeah. So she flew back that day as well. So like I was
got it
booking tickets and talking to her. She was in the Dallas airport at one point, like walking between flights, holding it together and like, getting back. And so we got back. I think I got in I must have jumped on a flight that night and got in like really early into Baton Rouge.
So when you were talking to your mom, you said she was holding it together, but obviously a struggle. How did that make, how were you feeling at that time? Did you feel helpless, or how did you feel knowing that, your mom's not there, you're not there, your dad's dealing with this very serious condition? Like what was going through your head?
I felt like I was the one that could get there the easiest, I had coworkers that were like, there was no question. They were like, go, we got your back. And so it was like, I was able to just kind of drop everything and go. It was a pretty helpless feeling until we got kind of like the word that it was like, okay, this is a brain bleed. He's going to have surgery at this time. It's not as dire as it could be. It wasn't good, but it wasn't, anything that was like that. This is a fairly routine brain procedure.
Was there a relief in at least knowing what it was, even if it was obviously brain bleed is bad, but knowing what it was there a relief in at least knowing, as opposed to being like, why isn't his hand working? What is going on?
Yeah, always. There's always, every step of the way. I felt like the not knowing is worse than having, a good idea of what's going on and how it breaks down, and knowing like, oh, okay, like now we're doing this treatment and this is these are the possible outcomes.
And so what, other than the surgery, was there any other treatment for the brain bleed, or was he still under cancer treatment at the time?
He was still under cancer treatment at the time. I remember like one of the first doctors we saw was his oncologist was there. His oncologist was amazing. The brain surgeon was a good brain surgeon, but kind of a dick. and I ended up like pulling him aside and being like, hey, don't be a dick to them. Like my at points, like my mom and dad were like nervous and scared and like frustrated with.
He didn't have any bedside manner
Yeah,
I think
he had no bedside manner, and I was like, if you need to be a dick to somebody, be a dick to me. But
yeah,
the two of them get to be, you know, they're off limits.
yeah. I have a lot. I do have some things in common. I'm a bad brain surgeon, but I'm a dick. So I got 1 out of 2 things in common with that brain surgeon.
Does it pay the same as a good brain surgeon?
I'm sorry?
Does it pay the same as a good brain surgeon?
It does not.
Oh.
But don't worry, I get that sweet, sweet ad money from Sad Times.
Okay.
For everybody. And that comes from Fuck Cigarettes.
Fuck cigarettes.
Hey, man, now you spread the word, Joe. Hey, and I have to give you a bunch of credit. You're going through all of that shit, and you're selfless enough to say, hey, man, I'm not trying to tell you how to do brain surgery. But could you just be nice to them? Just be nice to them. That if you're going to be a dick, be a dick to me.
Like, I felt like that was something I could do, where it was like, oh, I can. This guy's just an egomaniac. I can handle this, you know. And I kind of said, you know, like, and he kind of said. So the thing was, he missed like an entire day. He had a dental emergency and had to go in and like get a tooth root canal or something.
Sorry, this is the brain surgery? Or
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so this is the day after the brain surgery where we're all just like, you know, kind of cooped up. My younger brother has flown in by now, and it's kind of like we're just sort of sitting there waiting all day. And eventually one of his students comes in, and you know, it kind of got a little bit of a like, hey, what the fuck is going on? Why are we waiting here all day? What's going on? And then he comes in and kind of like half-ass apologizes and, you know, sort of gives a little lip back. And that's when I'm like, hey, come talk to me over here. Let's discuss this. And he was like, I apologized. And I was like, you can do a better apology than that. You can come up with a better apology. You know, like this, you know, they're just scared. Understand that. This has been a really like crazy week for us, you know, and it kind of just explained, you know, like my mother was out of town. She flew back in for this. Like, we are not in a place to give a lot of, you know, grace right now. So understand that. And if you need to be an asshole to somebody, that's me. That's what I'm here for.
And that's why Joe and I have always gotten along.
Yeah.
So he has the surgery. He recovers from the brain bleed. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. Almost immediately. Like when they took him out of anesthesia, like his hand was already showing strength improvement and everything. Yeah, and he was tweeting in no time.
And that's what's important here.
Yep.
Being able to tweet. Okay, so that was in August of 2015.
Then November of 2015.
Yep.
Royals won the World Series.
Yep. No, they went in 2015 or 2014?
2015. Yeah, 2014. 2014, they lost to the Giants with Alex Gordon.
Oh, right. They were there for 2 years in a row. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, 2016, they won.
So 2015, they win.
2015, they won. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you who won in 2016 if you are curious. It's the Chicago Cubs.
Ben Zobrist is who?
Yes, from the Royals. So 2015, he was our World Series MVP. So 2015, he has had this brain bleed, and then the Royals win the World Series. What was that like?
That was really good. Like that was another spot where, like, you know, so quickly when you're in cancer treatment, you lose your identity to like the treatment. You become a patient to everyone you know, and like the only questions are about how are you doing, how's the cancer, how's your T cell counts, what's your white blood cell look like, and throughout that run, you know, my brothers and he would all be texting. You know, we'd all watch the games, and you know, I've got a job with a weird schedule that works a lot of nights, so I'm able to watch a lot of day games. And you know, my older brother's got a TV in his office, and he's watching the games in the background. And so very, very quickly, we became just, you know, kids texting their dad about baseball. and it gave us, kind of a connection that wasn't based in the cancer. It gave us a way to be kids with their dad again, and not just, concerned children with their cancer patient father.
Yeah, and I think it's so well said that, for people who are ill with cancer or any sort of struggle, health struggle, they become a part of their personality, their identity almost becomes either the treatment for it. And I think that's really well said. And I think that, people, when they do ask them, how are you doing, all this stuff, they of course mean no harm. They care about them and all that stuff, but it must have been a relief for your dad, a lifelong baseball fan, and his 3 boys, and, to be able to watch his team and talk to his kids about, his team winning the World Series.
Well, his team was the Yankees, so we don't talk about that.
So he just, so he still liked the Yankees.
His team was always the Yankees. If the Yankees were playing the Royals, he was rooting for the Yankees.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, we never participated in the Yankees win because they're the Yankees.
Plus, they weren't playing them in the World Series.
No. Yankees were bad then. But it was, I think he really enjoyed that and having the, being able to be a part of that and see that, because, and I think I've always thought that he was kind of proud of us for being stubborn and never liking the Yankees. I always think there's kind of a part of him that was like, yeah, those are my kids. All right.
Yep.
That's
you
fair.
Had your team, and just like he had his team.
Well, and like there was a point at which in our youth, my younger brother named his stuffed animals after baseball players. And like his cherished childhood bear is Roger Maris Bear.
Oh my God.
And
that's so cute.
Yeah. But I think it was really just a ploy to get more stuffed animals, because my dad was like, there's so many great Yankees.
Yeah. And you can name this one Yogi Berra.
There was, and like gradually they all started to like the Yankees names fell off and the Royals names took over, and it was George and Willie and Frank.
That's awesome. Okay, so what's the next step in your dad's the cancer journey? So that was end of 2015, Fall Classic.
Yeah,
Royals won. What came next?
Then so let's see, that would have been October of 2015. My younger brother also got married, so that was a big deal. Like a big thing for him was being able to dance at my brother Tom's wedding. And he did it, like that. That's, like I think that was the kind of thing where it's like he just kind of was like, I'm doing this, and set his mind to it, and there was no stopping him.
Yeah. Okay.
So that was very cool and very very nice. And then he was cancer free until July of 2016.
Okay. Wow. Okay. What happened then?
Then he had problems with his pancreas, and they weren't sure if it was scar tissue from the previous cancer, or what it was. They caught it so early that it was they weren't sure exactly what was happening. And like his oncologist would take it to like meetings and stuff and be like, what is this? What needs to happen?
Mm-hmm.
And people would say like, oh, I think it's scar tissue. He needs a Whipple, which is where they just kind of cut your pancreas and all the ducts apart and then sort of shove it back together and hope it works. It's like one of the worst surgeries.
Jesus.
Oh yeah. It's
Whipple?
A Whipple. Yeah.
Not wiffle ball.
No.
Okay.
No.
Whip with 2 P's, like whip hole.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that. I'm learning all sorts of shit.
It's they talk about it in Grey's Anatomy a lot when you.
That's probably why I don't know about it.
Yeah. You'll discover it when you're like, oh, hey, that's that thing that they.
At least I didn't realize that the first 2 times I watched the entirety of Grey's Anatomy, which I think is still on television.
All right.
Okay, so pancreatic cancer, and you had mentioned before in 2014 when he thought he had kidney stones, you thought that you were very worried about the cancer in the scan being around his pancreas.
Yeah. So eventually they were like, this is pancreatic cancer, and they wonder, because they hit him with so much stuff. They wonder if it was kind of there the whole time, and they had sort of beaten it back some, and he had pancreatic cancer and the lymphoma at the same time. Jesus.
And I'm going to speak a bit extemporaneously here. I'm no expert, but you mentioned it earlier. Pancreatic cancer is one of the more serious forms of cancer, correct?
Yes. So there's kind of 2 forms of pancreatic cancer. The more rare one is the more survivable one. So
how nice.
There are treatments that can kind of, it becomes a cancer you can live with in a lot of cases.
Okay.
The more common garden variety one is very bad, and especially that's what he had.
Okay.
And especially after having had these massive treatments, fairly recently, his immune system just wasn't up to taking a whole bunch more treatment. So it was like, we can give you some treatment, but it's a third of what we would normally do, or whatever it was, so it just wasn't the same kind of ability to treat it.
And so at that point, did they give some sort of timeline? Did he have an idea maybe that, there might be, I might have X or Y, or, that type of thing? Was that in the discussion?
I don't remember having discussions about the timeline. I know he was not really interested in doing the Whipple. I think we went to a Royals game that summer, and he kind of said, if this is something that requires the Whipple, I don't think I'm going to do it.
Okay.
I think I don't want to do a big giant surgery after just having done this treatment. So I think he was definitely accepting of the circumstances and aware of it. And then when it was the pancreatic, it was the discussions always started like, we're going to treat it, we're going to do this, but we can't treat as aggressively as we would want to. And then by that Thanksgiving, the Thanksgiving of 2016, he had stopped treatment.
Okay.
I don't know if that's because Donald Trump won the election or not.
No,
but
I do blame that for most things.
I do know he was able to kind of let go of that and be like, you know what? This is your problem more than it's mine.
You know what? Fuck it. You'll figure it out. I don't know. You guys are Royals fans.
Yeah.
So
you're used to disappointment.
When did your father pass away?
February of 2017, February 19th.
February 19th, 2017. Well, obvious. Very sorry about your loss.
Thank you.
And very admirable that you're on here and talking about this journey, which is unfortunately a journey that everyone has to go through one form or another. Yeah. So, when he passed away, what was the kind of how did people try to comfort you? I remember that you let me know and I just blocked you. And we didn't talk for 3 years because I don't deal with emotions well. I'm not apologizing about that. That's just how I am. No, I'm just kidding. But how did people kind of approach that with you? You were saying earlier, when you are sick, it's almost that your identity is the sickness. So how did people approach you about that?
It's always interesting. Like there's kind of like good friends who kind of don't address it. And, you know, I certainly have been that guy that's like, I don't know what to say. I don't have any like insight in this.
Right.
You know, so that's always interesting. And then there's people who like sent me like a message on Facebook that were just like, fuck, man. And it's like, yeah. Yeah. Like, I mean, I feel like that's always like, I mean, people who know me know that that's a good, like just like, what the fuck? That sucks. It's like, okay, yeah, I gotcha. It does. Yeah. I'm there. And I mean, there were people. I had a good friend of mine and a client who called me almost immediately, and he's one of the nicest guys on the planet, and really like I don't remember a bit of what we said, but I'll always remember that he called me. You know, and you know that's so. I mean, there's kind of like it's more that you do something than nothing. But I mean, there's always things that are like kind of get you a little bit where it's like, you know, everything happens for a reason, and it's like that always is like fucking not now, man.
Yeah, I mean,
give me a minute with that shit.
Right. And that's why I gave you the 3 years before I told you everything. No, I'm just kidding. So, but yeah, and I think that is born out of people trying to say the right thing, I have to assume. Yeah. And that, you know, again, they're not trying to harm or anything, but I hear what you're saying. Like if I went through that type of grief that you're describing, and then, everything happens for a reason. I'm such a smart ass. I'd be like, okay, well, okay, explain to me the reason that X, Y, and Z just fucking happened. Right. Yeah. And I think that's probably, again, nobody's fault, but I think that's probably a more universal situation and feeling that people have than maybe are willing to admit, because it's such a overwrought, difficult, horrible time. Yeah. And, you know,
there's also like, everybody will ask if there's anything I can do. And like that is something that kind of in like those communities, it's like, it's a kind thing to say. It's a kind thing to offer, but it's also like, you know, kind of putting the work onto someone else and being like, you know, hey, but it is like, that's one of my pieces of advice for anybody's going through this, is to have something for people to do. Mine was go donate blood. It's like, wow. Know, if someone's really willing to go do something, like go donate blood, that will actually help people with cancer in your area. Like, and that's something we can all feel good about, you know, like that's something that, you know, if this situation has led to, you know, you helping someone you don't know, like that's a great thing. That's a piece of advice that I always have, is like those well-intended people who are kind of saying something that some people view as kind of irritating, where it's like, let me know if I can help. And it's kind of a little bit of a platitude. And it's like, you know what? Yeah, donate blood. That's a way you can help. My dad used so many things of platelets and whole blood and white blood cells and all that, you know, that's going to help someone. And, you know, so if someone's willing to really do that and help, I think that's a great way to like have something like that, where it's like you can, you know, yeah, or you can also phrase it differently, where it's like, if there's ever a time where you just can't cook for yourself, if you could just get to a point, let me know and I'll order you some Postmates. You know, something like that, where it's like, if you ever get to a point where it's like, fuck it, I can't fucking do this.
Yeah.
You know, like that is kind of a different setup, where it's like, okay, you know, this person's got my back for this, you know? Yeah.
So I think those are both great suggestions. Although Postmates, come on, man.
Is that not a thing anymore?
I fuck if I know. What do you think? I'm paying those delivery fees?
I don't know.
God damn it! I'll block you again, Joe. Okay, I didn't mean it. Okay, I won't.
Still gonna send you dick pics.
They still somehow get through. So last thing about this, and then I want to ask you about one other part of your life. But tell me about, this is a big question, right? But tell me about grief is something that we all deal with. And I'm coming to the conclusion, like Emily Dickinson said, hope is the thing with feathers. Well, grief is the thing with talons. It just rips and tears at anything near it. So tell us about how you dealt with your grief and or just losing your dad. Like, where was your head at the time?
So I think by the time he actually died, like my head was in like as good a place as somebody can be when their father's dying. Like he really, really did a great job of dying. Like
what does that mean? So what is that? I know that it does sound weird, but like coming from a theater background, I'm like, did he really do a nice Tybalt death or something in Romeo and Juliet? Like, what does that mean? He did a nice job of dying. What do you mean by that?
He left. I don't think he left anything unsaid. I think about the time where he maybe earlier than the time that they stopped treatment. He started writing us letters, and so we got emails from him like every other day, just like telling us stories from his life and detailing things he thought about or lists of national parks he went to, like just all kinds of stuff that. And then like he was very, very like not even willing. He needed to make sure people who he cared about knew that he cared about him. When there was a point at which he kind of stopped writing us letters and started writing letters to colleagues, so they all knew how, like, what he meant to them, and they all, like, he just really, really said everything that needed to be said, and we all knew that he was, comfortable with dying. He had this kind of peace about it that really was, something that I didn't know was an option, until I saw it.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's just like, so that by the time he actually died, it was genuinely, he was no longer suffering. There was kind of a piece to it where it was really like, okay, that's, we knew this was going to happen,
mm-hmm.
and then it happened, and now but we also knew how okay he was and how, realistically he viewed it and like almost embraced it.
Yeah,
like that sounds like I think of like embracing death in a real like kind of metal way.
Fuck yeah, man.
But but it was a much more like calm, and just kind of like really, really like he wasn't afraid. He wasn't, regretful of anything. He, had a really good perspective on the life he lived. And, I think it was, something to kind of aspire to, almost like
I was
live
about
a good
to,
life. And,
yeah. Mm-hmm. It's so admirable. It's everything that you're saying is so admirable. And it's I know that I'll just be running and screaming and being like, no. But everything that you just described, yeah, I think you said irritatingly perfect as I talked over you. Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of like, it's like, great, now I've got to die like this, or else I'm going to look like an asshole.
Oh shit. Well, hey, listen, I do want to make sure this is what I'm known for are my transitions. So from this horrible grief, I do want to make sure that we touch on one other thing. And thank you again for telling us the story. And I think it's just kudos to your dad for doing everything that he did, and again for being a hero and a journalist, and then for just sounds like being a great guy and a great dad and a great husband. So,
most of the time,
that's what Bob Dylan says. Most of the time.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned earlier you've lived in Vegas for like 18 years or something.
Something like that, yeah.
And you've always been in the entertainment industry, right?
Yes.
That's weird. I didn't know they had shows in Vegas.
Yeah.
So then that leads me to ask you a question. Does your wife also work in the entertainment business?
So she did up until COVID.
That's what I wanted to ask you about. I want to know what it was like. Now, I used to do theater at that's how we met, et cetera, et cetera. But tell me just a little bit about what that did to you when that, it became a national emergency. Everything started to shut down, and tell us a little bit about that and like what that meant for you and your wife. But speaking for yourself, your mental health, because you were losing your livelihood.
It was wild. Like everybody else, I've never seen anything like it. There was one day. It was the day that it was officially declared a pandemic, and I went into work at an expo center, the Las Vegas Convention Center, and walked in, and somebody said, "Today is going to be a rough day because it's officially a pandemic, and now legally with contracts, a lot of people can cancel without financial repercussion." And that was the day that they canceled the NCAA March Madness tournament. Mm-hmm. They canceled, I think, the rest of the basketball season, and it was just like I was in a little like tech closet with probably 10 other people, and just like everybody kind of staring at each other, and like one guy's got a cough.
Oh God!
Like, yeah. We're all just kind of like, everybody's just sort of looking, and then like somebody will get a text message and it's like, "Oh, this show canceled," and this show canceled, and we just watched, the next 2 months of work just kind of just fall by the wayside.
And it's almost like, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, like I had gigs before that like I was up in the air working on a lighting rig, and the producer came in and said, "Hey, everybody come out to front of house. We're going to have a discussion." And we all went out there, and they said, "This show's canceled. We're going to load it out right now. It's, everything's done. We're tearing it all out." And it was like, so we had been primed for this, but that was the day that it was like everything just kind of like a house of cards came down.
And this is before, well, if I have my timeline right, before Congress had been able to take any action. There was no stimulus by this point. There was no unemployment or added unemployment benefits. So you're kind of, if I'm recreating this right, or you're kind of staring down like, I've lost, there's going to be no more shows for the foreseeable future. What I do is help put on shows. And now what do I do? Yeah.
Yeah. It was definitely, and I mean, I think in the beginning we thought it was going to be a couple months. I was thinking, like everybody kind of thought like this is going to be a hit to our savings. And then as it kind of went on, it was like, oh, this is real bad, and not getting dealt with. And, we're not doing anything to manage this in any way.
Yeah. So that adds an immense amount of frustration, I imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, so like, it's just kind of like, one thing after another. And then we're seeing that like everything is going to be as bad as we thought. Like the worst case scenario has happened the last like 5 times in a row. And we're just like, okay, this is very bad. And it's probably going to run through the summer now.
Right.
And then it's like, okay, so what happens, and like the way my stuff is organized. I'm organized under a business, so technically I laid myself off.
Oh, wow.
Which is tricky for unemployment because.
So you're a maker and a taker?
Absolutely.
Don't tell Paul Ryan. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah,
we got real political here.
I'm Joe the plumber.
Yeah, I'm Joe. You are Joe. That's good.
So I eventually was able to talk to unemployment, and they kind of said like, well, you did everything right. Like you paid into this system when there was no real foreseeable, like no one had seen any reason that you would ever be in a situation like this.
Mm-hmm.
I also have asthma, so there was a medical reason that I had to, stay out of large gatherings. And so it was like there's not they were like, you've done everything right, and we'll make a decision. And then like probably 6 weeks later, maybe a month later,
mm-hmm.
I checked my unemployment, and there was a credit for a whole bunch of money on it. And it was like, okay. Like that was the first time I could take a deep breath and like, okay, we're gonna make it through this. Okay.
So as being somebody who, something I think probably too much about, is the meaning that we get from our vocation. Mm-hmm. And having just the meaning part taken away. I'm not even talking about obviously the money to put food on the table, et cetera, but having that meaning taken away, what did that do to you mentally?
That certainly was that took me to a kind of a place where like I'm really good at my job, and I kind of jumped in. I've been a hobby woodworker for a long time, and I kind of was like, maybe I'll take some time in woodwork.
Mm-hmm.
And so the biggest thing, like then woodworking is more of a creative outlet than most of the work that I do.
Okay.
In entertainment, because most of the work I do in entertainment is for corporations to get up on stage and talk about their corporation. So it's not, high art or legitimate theater or musical theater, or most of it is just corporate stuff where it's kind of soulless. So there's a kind of an empty spot in my career where it's like, I used to do this in a theater where, it was making people happy. Now it's in a convention hall or a ballroom making people bored. Kind of. So
now, let's not give theater that much credit. It also makes people bored. But I'm joking, but I hear what you're saying.
So it was like there's kind of a void there, and I was like, great, I'll woodwork, and that'll be more creative. But at that point, it went from being like doing something I'm really, really good at to doing something that I'm kind of a novice at. And like, I have to suck at for a while before I get to the point where I'm very good at it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was interesting, where it's like, having that drop off where it's like, I know exactly what I'm doing here. And then I come over here and it's more creative, but I don't really know what the fuck I'm doing.
Was there some excitement in that too, or is it just nerve-wracking?
There's some excitement, but there's also like there's excitement, and then when you succeed, it feels great, and you're like, that's awesome. And then when you fail, you're like, I am the worst ever, and I don't know why I even try.
I have to give you a shout out. I have not many things, but I did buy some stuff from your woodworking stuff, and I was using it today. Nice. Very talented stuff. And that's so cool that you could take, something and make a positive, creative outlet out of it with COVID. So that's really awesome, man. And
I appreciate it.
being creative, at least for me, if you can, for me, if I'm creative every day, that's at least the day is not totally wasted.
Yeah.
Well, Joe, I want to thank you for being on here, man. You shared a lot with us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it is a testament to you that you were able to share this stuff with us, and a lot of stuff that you shared. And I know that some of that's not easy. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. And really, really appreciate you being on.
Absolutely. Thanks for unblocking me.
Yeah. Well, that's about enough with the dick pics, Joe. All right. Well, everybody, Joe, thank you again. Can't wait to see you soon. And everybody else, thank you so much for listening. And just remember, I guess, I think Joe said a lot of really powerful stuff here, and it was a wonderful story. And just remember that you always have a story to tell other people, and that story is going to help somebody. And I think that's wonderful. So, always know that there's room for kindness and grace, even with yourself. We wish you the best, and we'll see you next time on Sad Times.
Fuck cigarettes.
Fuck cigarettes. Bye.
You've been listening to a Fourth Hand Joint.